Welcome for this full moon of December 7 or 8, depending where we are on this beautiful planet. So let's have a look at the chart of this full moon. Well, it is a full moon that is a little bit more quiet than usual. There's less huge, big, strong cosmic energy moving around. The heavier planets are kind of calm. There are some aspects, but they are not that precise. So let's have a look at what is actually precise. There still is some interesting aspects there. So the main one is a conjunction of Moon and Mars. And this is really precise actually. Same degree, and even the minutes are really close by. Really close to being exactly in conjunction. So of course, if it's a full moon, the moon will be in a position to the sun. So the sun in Sagittarius in a position to Moon and Mars in conjunction in Gemini. It is a special time for this conjunction. Why? Because Mars is retrograding in Gemini since a little while now, and it's gonna stay quite a while in Gemini. Altogether, it's, I think, more than 5 months in Gemini, this Mars. It entered a little while ago in the sign of Gemini, and then it went up to 25 degrees, then it's retrograding, and it will still be retrograding for another month till it will reach 8 degrees in Gemini, and then it will be direct again, and it will last for a few more months. Then it will finally exit this sign of Gemini. So it's been a while, and it means that it's doing an important work in Gemini. And this full moon is really underlining this important work because the moon is right on spot. When it's a full moon, it is the full moon of Gemini in 2022, and it's right on spot on this Mars. So it's an important time, and the retrogradation is in process. So it means, aha, we're digging deeper into understanding our Mars. And our Mars in Gemini. And what is Mars? Mars is our will. It's our willpower. It's our action power. It's our inner motor, what really allows us to do things, to put us in movement. When you think about it, this Mars is the energy. If you compare Mars with all the other planets, our solar system in astrology, well, you'll find out that it is the planet that we're so often not controlling really. For two reasons. One reason, when Mars is in fire, it's just so hard to control. It's so strong. It's difficult to canalize this energy well because it's like, you know, when there's anger, when we're angry. Well, it's difficult to canalize this energy. It's complicated because it's kind of an explosion of energy. So it's not that easy. And the other reason is, most of the time, we think that our Mars is not very important. Let's take a few examples. It's a little bit like, you know, you have a whatever container and you have to choose, do I recycle it or not? And if the recycling bin is really far away and it will really be complicated to recycle. Let's say it would ask you 10 minutes to walk to recycle the thing you have in your hand. Let's say you're a tourist somewhere and really to go recycle this container, and it's just a simple thing. It's not a terribly polluting stuff, but it's just a plain simple container. You just ate in it and you would like to recycle it, but to recycle it you would have to walk 10 minutes and there's a garbage bin right next to you. Very few people will walk that 10 minutes. Why? Because we think our Mars is not important. And it's always like that. Same thing goes with the way we eat ourselves. How do we feed ourselves? We think, oh, some people, you know, that are using their will in some areas of their life will say, oh, never ever I will ever eat meat, for example. I don't want to encourage killing animals to feed ourselves. There are other ways to feed ourselves. I don't want to do that. I'm against this, for example. They use their will to do it. But if you don't, you think, for example, well, what will it change? It's only me. It won't change much, you know, in our entire world. Or another example, You could walk to go someplace or use your bicycle, but then it would take 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and you have your car, and that would take only like, I don't know, 2 minutes or so. Else, many people will use their car. And if it's 20 and 3 minutes, or I don't know exactly, but you see a little bit the idea. We think it's not important. We overlook the importance of our own Mars, of our own action. Because of that, we think, oh, well, I can choose either or, it's not really important. We think it's not important. Same goes with our, let's say someone is starting an enterprise, a business, let's say. Well, then the choices he makes, he will think it's not important. It's irrelevant. It's a super small business just trying to survive. Well, what would it really change the whole game if he does things in a more, let's say, environmentally friendly way or another? It's not that important. He tries to survive. So Mars is not that important. And we see that all the time. And let's have a look to one of the most talked of example right now, the Football World Cup in Qatar right now. What a good example. Mars is totally overlooked. Totally overlooked. Not only there because of course they do it in a really hot place in the desert, and they have like, oh, come on, this like cold air coming out and all this, the world, I'm liking the word right now, but this thing, the big scandal there, big problem. That's it. They don't, it's complicated, it's overlooked that we're using the will of humans, of people, and it's just flowing through, and we don't keep any of it, and we think it's irrelevant, while it definitely is. This is a huge case, and it's being watched by millions and millions of people worldwide, and it's just a shocking example of it. But if we go deeper into this and we think about every human being that is watching either a show, could be a music show, could be a sport event, like this famous Football World Cup, for example. Well, anytime we're watching a sport event, what do we have on our mind? What do we have in our mind? If we're watching something, our Mars is involved. It's an action, right? We decide to do this. We decide to support because we do something, there's power behind it. If they can pay their players that high, it means there's power behind the fact that we watch it, right? There's real power there. Well, this power, what is in our mind when we watch some sport, for example, or a show, a simple show? What is in our mind at this moment? For example, if you think that you watch your team play and you think, wow, this is real team building. Like there's a real team spirit out there in the game, and this is so inspiring, and you connect yourself to this team building, this team capacity that allows us to do the impossible. And that's one thing that is inspiring in sport, is they sometimes can do impossible things. You see it and you think, wow, that's impossible. It's one chance out of so many millions that could be done actually by a human being. It's really, really impressive. Well, if you make an effort and use your Mars when you watch sport, for example, and you watch it with this mindset, all of a sudden, what do you create? You create some kind of a fabric around your will that you use to watch sport, and you create something with it. You keep it. It's not just flowing through your fingers and you just lose it in the dry sand of the desert, Like, I don't know. One aspect of this Mars, it's fuel. It's power. It's a little bit like oil you know. It's a bit like oil that represents so much power. And by the way, that opens up the window to talk about the other aspect that is of importance during this full moon, which is an opposition between Pluto in Capricorn and the black moon Lilith in Cancer. So this opposition is really precise. It's the same degree, and so it's an important one. And that tells us about Pluto, that represents power. And we know that Mars and Pluto are both ruling Scorpio together. So even though the sign of Scorpio is not mentioned there, in those two oppositions, the one of Moon and Mars in opposition to Sun in Sagittarius, Moon and Mars being in Gemini, and the one of Pluto in Capricorn in opposition to Lilith in Cancer. Well, even though Scorpio is not involved there, well, the fact that Mars and Pluto being the two specific special planets in those opposition being there are some resonances with this energy of Scorpio, of power, of oil, this really deep black matter that is so powerful. And that's exactly what we see. This energy is just flowing through our hands and between our fingers and falling into the dry sand of the desert. And since it's oil, it's just flowing through, and we won't ever be able to pick it up again. And that's the idea. We're losing it in a place where there's no richness, not so much, right? So of course, in some deserts, we can collect lots and lots and lots of oil. But you see, that's exactly it. There are reservoirs down there below. But when we bring power back to the surface in a Mars plane, so if we leave it, falling through our hands and, back in the sand again, and we just lose it, it goes back in this Plutonian reservoir deep, 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 deep down, right? Where we find oil usually. But if once we bring this power back up to the surface, then it will flow not through Pluto, but through Mars. And that's where we used to lose this power somehow. We use it to make some kind of an action, but then we lose totally the thread of this power. Where is it going then? There's more power than just what we use it for with what we have in our hands. What I mean by this is, I'll give an example. Use your car to go somewhere. So let's say you use some fuel, gas or diesel, whatever. Now electricity as well, and hydrogen even. So you use some kind of a power in your car to go from one place to another. So yes, you're using this power, but then that's not it. There's more to this power source. There will be some wastes in the air, on the ground, many different places. There will be some type of wastes. And there's also the warmth that it created. And this movement that has been there has also some impact in the air around us. Let's talk about the butterflies and the bees and all those insects that get killed by cars, for example. They know that the movement changed things, right? It has some impact. So I'm just naming a few things, and there's probably more, and I'm not seeing. I'm not a scientist that studied this in details, but there is more to the power we're using than just what we're using it for. And all the rest of it, we don't care about it. It's a little bit like, I don't know, we're using a credit card to pay something, and there's part of that money that is being pulled away by the bank or whoever is in charge of this credit card, and they keep a certain percentage of each transaction with most cards, most credit cards. Well, this percentage is pulled out of the whole equation, and that just slipped through our fingers and we just lost it. So this is how we usually work with our Mars. So whenever someone, a sport fan, would watch sport either on TV or on plays, well, that's exactly what happens. They're using some power there, but there's a big portion, a huge chunk of this power, of this Mars, of this action power, that is lost somewhere else. They lost lots of their power. So the trick is to actually create something, some container that will keep this power. Of course, we think, oh, it has to flow, right? Money has to flow. It comes in, it comes out. It's normal. It has to be flowing. Sure. But when we're talking about really precious things, then it's a tiny bit different, because we have to think what's going to happen to this source of power. It can be really important, specifically if we want to create some kind of a community movement to make things better. Then we need our power. We really do need it. So we need to create some kind of container that will keep it, preserve it from being simply lost. And this container is actually, and you've heard it in many times in different teachings, spiritual movements and religions and all those, if you do something, there's a prayer before, a prayer after, there's an intent to everything we do in a spiritual work. Example, we're eating. When we're eating, it's the same thing. We're using a certain amount of energy, but this power that we use to do it, there's more behind it. So that's why the great initiates, the great spiritual leaders of our planet, most of them actually created either a prayer or a moment of silence or something specific, so that we are actually giving an intent for what we're doing that keeps the power of what we do. And it's that intent that is actually training our Mars to be strong. And if we've been doing this for a really long time, and this is what's so interesting with Mars in Gemini, having this great retrogradation process, well, what is so interesting there is this Mars, once it's trained, it can actually connect with others and help them leading the way. Because the first time we give an intent to an action, it's good, but it's not that powerful. We're not really trained to do it, right? So the container is not only formed, there's lots of leakages happening still in our nice little container. Let's say a prayer or a certain intent we have, it's good, but it's not really strong yet. We're still losing tons of energy. But once this is big and strong, we can actually help others. We can do it along with others. Think about, let's say, you take a meal along with friends. And then, what do? You just laugh and spend a good time and see all that energy that is spread out. It's fine. Sometimes we need to relax. Okay. But still, if we just do this, our Mars is a big part of it is being to waste. But if during this great meal with friends, we have an intent and we talk about something very constructive, well then, it's a different story. And for people that have an intent for everything they do, let's say they wash the dishes. As I wash this plate, may, I don't know, my heart or my solar plexus, if you will, something, may I clean this receptacle at the same time. So when you wash your dishes, you're not just only washing your dishes, you're doing something else because you give an intent. So you're keeping the full strength of the power of your own Mars, of your own will, within for the goal that you have personally. And if you, I don't know, if you wash your fork, well, it's like antennas. It's Neptunian, a fork. So may my antennas, be well prepared so that I can receive precious and subtle messages. May them be clean and sharp. And same goes with a spoon. May this energy that will be very soft, very kind, be clean within myself. You see, this kind of idea. And there's lots of intents we can give to almost everything we do. Like actually to everything we do. We can really do that. And this is what this full moon is bringing to Mars in Gemini. While Mars is having a strong process in Gemini, this is huge. We have to train in order to then be able to help leading others that didn't have a chance to train so much and to do this so much, to try and help to bring their Mars in a more constructive perspective. This is really important because as we're slowly entering in the age of Aquarius, well, we'll need this. We'll need Mars for real. There will be times where Mars will be crucial. It will be the planet we turned towards to make things work. Right now, it's kind of in a pause. For a little while, even in 2023, it won't be like a big planet, maybe a few times, but not as a general idea. But some years, it will be Martian years. If you want those Martian years to be good, to be efficient, well then, this is a full moon exactly to do that. So it's not such huge, big shifts happening. It's more for ourselves to be more aware of how we use our own Mars. And this power, when it's brought back to the surface, to ourselves, we think it's useless because we usually think we are useless or not very useful. So we don't give enough value to our own will. This is amazing, and it's a huge part of why things are going the way they're going. Why pollution? Why there's so much disrespect? Because we think, oh, it's only me, it's just my will, because it's brought to the surface. If it would be the power of the whole country, then we think, oh, this needs to be done right. And if the president, the government is not proper, then it's a huge problem. But when it's just us, it's no big deal because we don't give value to our own will. That's a huge thing. So that's about this full moon. I hope you like it. I hope it talks to you a little bit. I think this World Cup, this Football World Cup, is really telling us a lot about the whole process there. But we need to bring it further in all of our actions, even when we're sleeping. When we're sleeping, what's happening? We just give up and it's done? No, Mars never give up. Mars will actually say, oh, as I'm going to sleep, I want to enter this school to learn a school while we're sleeping, either through our dreams or through any other way we have to be conscious while we're sleeping, well, to go and learn divine things in a divine school, let's say. I use the word divine. If you prefer a different word, use a different word. But basically, you got the idea. Some really useful things for our own evolution, for our own development, so that we're doing our work better and better on Earth. So thank you very much for watching. And again, thank you for liking, sharing, commenting. Of course, as you noticed, my first tongue is not English at all. It is definitely French, and I'm doing those videos in French since a long time. This channel, I will keep going if there's enough interest for it. So if you do like it, if you think it's useful, I'm doing this only to help because I had many friends, English-speaking friends, asking for it. But I'm a really busy person. I work a lot with the bees and I have many projects going on, all really nice and beautiful projects I'm sure all of you would really love. Well, actually, I'm a very busy person, so I do those videos in English, but I'll keep doing them only if there's a real demand for it. And please show me your appreciation just through, I don't know, comments. Sharing it is really useful. Liking it is important as well. All those different ways on YouTube to make things, to show the appreciation and to make sure this will keep going. So yeah, it's important. I need to know if it's worth all this time in those English videos. Of course, in French, I will always keep going, but in English, yeah, I'm still trying to figure out, will I keep going or not? The last new moon slept away, you see, so I'm not yet convinced that I should keep going. So please convince me, and then we'll keep going for a really long time. If it's useful for real, I'll keep going because that's what makes me want to do those videos. So let me know. Thank you very much and see you soon for another astrology video.